Well, hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Seeds of Transformation podcast with Dr. Allma Johnson. Today, we're diving into a word that is everywhere: blockchain. For some, it feels mysterious, maybe even overwhelming. But here's the truth: it's not just for techies, it's shaping the world we live in. That's why I'm excited to have Kamal Hubbard with us today. With his expertise in law, compliance, and financial security, Kamal will take our topic today that is complex and break it down into clear, bite sized pieces. Together, we'll explore what blockchain really is, its security limits, cryptography, and even tokenization. Yeah, that's right, tokenization. So grab your juice box and snack because this episode is going to be simple, eye opening, and full of aha moments. By the end, you won't just know about blockchain, what it is, you'll also see why it matters to you. Let us begin. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Seeds of Transformation podcast with Dr. Allma Johnson. I have a special guest with me today who's going to tell us all about blockchain. So if you are like me, as many others are, get your juice box ready, y'all, and get your snack because we are going back to like first grade and we're going to sit here and learn all about blockchain. I want to welcome my guest with me, Kamal. Welcome to the Seeds of Transformation podcast. Thank you for joining us today. How are you?
All right, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Dr. Johnson. I appreciate the invite, and hopefully, I'm able to share if- this information in the best way possible for your listeners and viewers.
Wonderful, wonderful. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and all those good things, and what you do in this blockchain world that we're in?
Sure, sure. Well, I'm a lawyer by training, and after getting out of law school, I did a few things. I clerked for a couple of judges,
Mhm.
and then I clerked at a nonprofit law firm here in Silicon Valley that was focused on fair housing. And it was at the height of the subprime mortgage crisis, helping to keep families in their homes. They got in these really bad loans that we all
Yeah.
know about. And that subprime mortgage crisis grew into a global credit crisis. So
Mm.
from there, I had an opportunity to do some postdoc work at Stanford University's Rock Center for Corporate Governance, which is a joint collaboration between Stanford's Graduate School of Business and Stanford's Law School. I worked with the former Securities and Exchange Commissioner, where we were examining federal securities litigation, focusing on stock fraud and global corruption under the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act.
Yes.
And
Okay.
something that I kept coming across in my research on the credit crisis is, all these banks are getting sued.
Mm.
Yes, a lot of financial institutions went under, and but we also had this too big to fail model that was going on too, where we bailed out the banks, nobody went to jail
Mm.
for doing any of this, and I kept coming across this thing called Bitcoin, and it came out of this global credit crisis that said, okay, hey, if banks are responsible for this, we need to have a system of peer-to-peer cash transactions where there is no central authority
Mhm.
or central decision-making body to say, hey, you can't engage in a certain transaction against or with one another, right? So it's essentially taking banks out of the equation, and that makes a lot of sense due to, the banking malfeasance that had taken place that led up to this crisis. So, I kept my eye on it, and I was like, well, it's interesting right now. It seems like it's very insular. It's a lot of, it's online community. Is this like money for, internet people or,
Mhm.
Second Life or Dungeons and Dragons? Like if this is like
Right.
some real stuff, then yeah, it could have some real world impact.
Mhm.
And but like I said, I was looking at it from an academic standpoint and from a risk averse fraud prevention standpoint. And I was like, all right, well, you're talking about people using money on the internet. There's so much internet fraud to begin with, right? So I spent 2 years doing independent research and
Hmm.
understanding how uh, blockchain technology works and taking a fraud examination approach. So I became a certified fraud examiner.
Okay.
And then I also got certified in cybersecurity to understand how to lock down these digital assets. So, um, yeah, and making sure you have strong networks and things like that is very important when it
Right.
comes to that. And then later got certified in decentralized finance and wrote a book in 2020 called DeFi for the Diaspora, where it's just talking about, hey, there's the World Economic Forum came out with a study that like 1.8 billion people are unbanked,
Mm.
and you have a subset of those folks who are underbanked, right? And
Now, can I stop you there? Would you
sure,
explain to us what unbanked and banked means?
sure. So,
Mm-hmm.
well, there's banked is people who actually have access to banking services.
Hmm.
Unbanked are people who don't have access to banking services. Underbanked people, I think, is like the subset that, like, a lot of people in the United States who don't have full access to full banking services,
Hmm.
and they find themselves in predatory situations like payday loans,
Mm.
or
Yeah.
you don't have adequate access to capital, you're underbanked,
Hmm.
right? And my book covers the history of generally black people in the United States and what they faced historically through redlining,
Yes.
lack of access to capital, so on and so forth. And why decentralized finance? Well, if you take traditional finance and the history of discrimination, and you leverage decentralized finance to take that discrimination out of the equation, it now becomes an option to do some more, or at least have more of a sustainable economy within the Black community, and not
Right.
just in the United States, but the whole global Black diaspora. But I mean, really, it can be applied to other marginalized groups as well.
Yes. Okay. Wow. That's a lot. You guys, we're in good hands, okay? And I know we're gonna have a good podcast today, and we're gonna learn a lot. So with everything, what would actually, and I believe you've already expressed that, what got you into what brought you what brought you to where you are now? All of that encompass just placed you where you are now.
Well, after I wrapped things up at Stanford, spent almost a decade there. I began to work in the public sector for a little bit,
Okay.
doing small business and civil rights work. And
Hmm.
I took a break from that, and then I went into the private sector and had a startup company that was the first to lobby Congress. And I also did advocacy here in the state of California, where I spoke in front of the Senate Banking Committee. So we did a lot of advocacy. We were the first, or the team that I worked with was the first to go to Congress
Hmm.
and advocate around the concept of blockchain commodities. Basically, that led to the decision, or at least I feel like it led to the decision with the Securities and Exchange Commission
Okay.
to determine that Bitcoin and Ethereum are actually commodities and not securities.
Okay.
And
Okay.
just due to their decentralized nature, and that actually took place not very long after that first committee that we worked with, and it was actually the agriculture committee, right?
Hmm.
So we're better to actually argue that something is a commodity than agriculture, right?
Right.
And so we did a lot very early on, and then the industry in a lot of ways, I want to say, caught up. And but um, I went back to the public sector because in 2018, there was a market downturn and Bitcoin went from its all time high at the
Yes.
time to a low for another few years. So,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, like a lot of people in the industry, we had to go back to, the 9 to 5 grind. And
Yeah.
I had a great experience. I worked with a lot of great people. I experienced so many good things along the way. Yeah, I mean, it's funny, all the stories I could tell. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, it could be a Netflix series or
Right.
something, on Tubi or something. I don't know. Who
Right.
knows? I
Yeah.
already have a podcast, but I don't really like go back into some of the things that I've done and some of the things that
Mhm.
I've seen. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. I could tell
Yeah.
a story or two. I'm laughing because, you know, you were talking about juice boxes and snacks earlier. So
Right.
some of these stories probably aren't really appropriate for kids with their juice
Oh,
boxes.
okay.
I'll
Right.
well, we can move on to the actual learning part of this.
Right.
So
Right. Maybe for another time. I hear you. I hear you.
yeah, yeah.
So let's start with this. What is blockchain and how is it different from the systems we use today, such as banks and ledgers?
Well, blockchain technology, I mean, it's you mentioned ledgers. So it
Yes.
is actually that. Another name for blockchain is distributed ledger technology. So
Okay.
with most ledgers, if you're looking at like debits and credits,
Hmm.
right,
Hmm.
for accounting. But there's a lot of people who aren't accountants, and that might not necessarily make sense to them. So there's two really good analogies that I think that are very approachable. Is like a hotel management system, right? You have to
Hmm.
know who's checking into a room and who's checking out. So okay, hey, you can't you know, sell that room to somebody else when somebody's already occupying it.
Right.
And you need to know if a room needs to get turned over if somebody just checked out so you can get it clean for the next person. So that's a type of ledger, right?
Hmm.
Understanding who's staying in the hotel, who's staying in what room, who's
Right.
coming and who's going. That's a ledger system. Another type of ledger system is like the public library system, right?
Okay.
People are
Okay.
checking books in, they're checking books out. You have to know, okay, well, which book is out right now and when it's coming back in case somebody comes and says, well, hey, I'd like to check out this book. I
Hmm.
don't see it on the shelf. Well, it's due back in a couple weeks. So that's
Hmm.
another type of ledger system, right? And so with these digital ledgers, and if we're just taking it kind of at the simplest form of like Bitcoin 1.0,
Hmm.
is it's a ledger of payments essentially, right? And payments and accounts. So these accounts are users who have what's called wallets
Okay.
with various amounts of Bitcoin in them. And it's keeping a record of Bitcoin that's being sent amongst those users. So that's how that ledger works. And
Okay.
that transactional information gets saved on what's called a block.
Okay.
And then that block gets saved next to essentially another block. And that's where they say it's essentially chained together, right? So you have
Yes.
data in one block, here's a previous block, and then the next block, and then they're all chained. And all that information is essentially getting saved through thousands of computers around the world. And so it's not, that's where the whole concept of decentralization,
Okay.
even though decentralization still doesn't have a very defined meaning in law yet, but the point of having all this information being saved and verified through thousands, several computers around the world, not just one data center or two data centers. And it's public too. Any of us can join that
Mhm.
network of computers to verify those transactions. That's the distributed part. The
Okay.
ledger part I talked about, and technology. So blockchain technology, distributed ledger technology. That's essentially how it works.
Okay.
And instead of it, once again, being controlled by a central authority, it's controlled by this essentially a public authority, a group of people who can come to the network and say, I would like to, uh, you know, offer my computer power, my computing power to keep
Hmm.
the network going.
Okay.
So, Yeah, hopefully that, like I said, hopefully that's a good enough description. Or is there any way you'd like me to
No, no, because in
elaborate?
my
That's fine
head,
too.
yeah, in my head I see like or in my mind I'll say it that way. It's like different things, different blocks that are literally like chain one to another and all over the place. I hope people can grasp that in their minds
Right.
of what
And
it is. Yeah.
maybe an example would be like if I sent you some Bitcoin or digital currency,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
That transaction gets saved into a block.
Right.
And then you send some digital currency to a friend of yours in North Carolina.
Hmm.
That gets saved on a block. All the information of us and our transactions go on these different blocks, once again, that are chained in chronological order.
Okay. Hmm.
So I don't know. Hopefully that's an example that's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah. No, that's good. That's good. So blockchain is often called secure and transparent. What does that mean? And how true is that? And then the third part of that question is where are its limits? Are there any limits to this security and
Uh well, yes. So the secure part really speaks to how most of these blockchain networks are secured through cryptography.
right.
And I'm sure you know about cryptography and
Yeah,
how it
I do. And
works.
I know some people are like, okay.
R- Right, right. So maybe, you can help me along the way with this, but cryptography came out of a lot of like I think it began in Rome. What they
Yeah.
were trying to do is pass secure messages across
Hmm.
enemy lines. And, basically it's a secret message and it needs to go to a designated person. So
Hmm.
that person has the ability to unlock the secret message. But that person, secret person, needs to avail themselves of, oh, hey, I'm the secret person,
Right.
but there needs to be some way of them publicly being availed of that, right? And that's what's called a public key, right? You have a key that's public that allows somebody with this secret information to know that you are the designated person to receive the secret message.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then once that person gets that message, they also have a way of deciphering
Hmm.
what's called a private key that allows them to decipher that secret message. So that's essentially how these work. They use computer algorithms to actually secure the data. So all of these blocks that are chained together have cryptographic hashes
Hmm. Hmm.
that secure the data on the network. So that's the secure part. The transparent part is all these networks are also public. There's a little limitation on that, but by and large, most of these are public networks. So any time of day or night, you can go to what's called a blockchain viewer or scanner,
Hmm.
or different networks call it different things, but
Right.
it's letting you know exactly in real time what is going on that blockchain. And you can look at, okay, the actual blocks that are being added, but you can also go back to older blocks and look at what happened in really since the very beginning of a blockchain. You can view what sort of data is being passed along. So in a private setting with a bank, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes bank to bank,
Right. No.
but on blockchain, you can look at what's been going on that ledger, and you can audit it essentially if you wanted to. So
Yeah.
that's the transparent part of it. And yeah, that's very true. You can go to a blockchain viewer and check out, smart contracts, wallets, and transactional information. And uh, when I did say that there's limits, there are some types of blockchains that are actually meant to be private.
Right.
So,
Okay. Hmm.
there's going to be corporations that are probably
Right.
going to have
Hmm.
private blockchains so that they can uh, keep up with some of the internal information that's going on in case they get audited. They can say, hey, we have a blockchain, or their external auditors or internal auditors can come in and say, hey, we need to look at your private blockchain to see what's been going on certain
Right.
things. And it just makes it easier, hopefully.
Hmm.
Um, so
No, that was good. And when you said from Rome, I mean, it's is literally back to Rome, you guys. This is nothing. It's new, but it isn't. So I think that's the, if I can say so safely, the tricky part for some, it seems very new, but it isn't. It really isn't. So beyond crypto, where is blockchain already reshaping industries like finance, food, produce? And I'm saying that because I listened to your last podcast about food and produce and blockchain. Um, and then even healthcare. How is blockchain stepping into those places? Or are they already reshaping those places?
yeah, I mean, honestly, those are just a few industries
Hmm.
that can be benefited from blockchain. I mean, government can also be improved through blockchain, insurance, right? Like, I live in the state of California. We had these wildfires, and
Hmm.
you had people in the Palisades fire in particular. These are people who were paying premiums for decades.
Oh yeah.
They lost their homes. I don't know if you saw this story
Yeah, oh yeah.
where someone went to one of the insurers and said, hey, I'd like the check so that I can rebuild my home
Hmm.
or go somewhere else and buy a new one. They gave him a check and the check bounced.
Oh, wow.
So sounds like they need a blockchain, right?
Right.
But
Oh boy.
yeah, and it's like, and not just that, now you have insurance carriers that are leaving certain markets altogether.
Oh
So I
yeah.
don't,
Oh
I
yeah.
don't want to get
Mhm.
into the insurance part of it, or well, maybe I will. Now, if we look at those insurance companies that are essentially, some of them are private, some of them are mutualized public, but if you go in down the road of decentralized insurance, right, where you know you in particular, you're a doctor, you're a professional, you get with a number of other doctors, and I mean, we're just using the example of malpractice insurance,
Yes.
right? So these doctors previously had an insurer that basically says yay or nay to their claims, right? Like,
Hmm.
okay, this is a legitimate claim, we'll pay on it. Now, if those doctors get together and create a decentralized malpractice insurance policy, they are the ones who get to make those decisions, right? Hey, which of these claims are actually valid? Which ones are we going to pay out on? How
Hmm.
much are we going to pay out on? How much of it was really your fault as a doctor for not meeting the standard of care?
Right,
Like,
right.
they get to do that. And that's where I think, that's where I get excited, because it's like, all right, hey, if a bunch of drivers got together and started to, get their own car insurance,
Hmm.
what would actually happen to rates and then
Oh.
overall access? So
Hmm.
those are some of the things that, actually conversations I've had recently, which have been,
Yeah.
eye-opening.
Yeah.
But, when you're talking about stuff like food systems,
That's what
the
interests me. And when I heard that on your podcast, would you mind stating your podcast title again? Yeah, I don't
oh
think you
yeah, it's
just,
called Crypto with Kamal. I'm actually wearing my
oh, look
shirt.
at you.
Yeah, I came ready.
I
So I
see.
thought, but
Crypto with
uh,
Kamal. Yes. I really enjoyed that podcast because I said, yes, food. All these things are being affected. So, but go ahead. You were talking about you're stepping into that produce.
that's an even
Yeah.
more interesting use case into food, because it came out, and the project is called AgriDAO,
Yeah. Okay.
and
Okay.
DAOs are decentralized autonomous organizations, which I don't really have time to get into that. It's a little complex, but
Sure. Sure.
the model works well with cooperatives.
Mm.
So he's working with cooperative farms in Africa to tokenize agricultural goods.
Hmm.
And in particular, what they're looking to do is track and trace market pricing for food. And then this allows people, if they want access to this food, they're able to do it and work directly with the farmers as opposed to all the middlemen who are actually, skimming off the top of whatever food you're trying to essentially procure. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
it's a very interesting use case. So, and
Yeah.
then, if food goes bad, right?
Right.
You're able to track exactly like the lot to where that came from. So,
Mm-hmm.
if there's like let's just say a listeria outbreak for, a certain batch, you
Hmm.
can then isolate that batch and look at other ones adjacent to it and say,
Mm.
is this one contaminated? Oh no, this batch is good.
Right.
Consumers don't have to worry. You can eat this. Whereas
Okay.
this one in particular, you need to dispose of this.
Wow.
And so it's better accuracy and reduces food waste. And
Hmm.
so, like I said, there's so many different use cases when it comes to food. You mentioned finance. We're
Hmm.
starting to see the traditional financial system onboarding onto crypto, which to
Hmm.
me is it's unfortunate because what they're looking to do is basically control it the same way that they did the previous financial system.
Hmm.
So I think it's important for people to understand, and I mean, our people in particular, but all people, period, to
Yes.
understand, hey, the difference in what you can do on your own. And yes, I get we're in an attention economy. We want things done easily for us. You want to go on your phone, tap a few buttons, and DoorDash
Right.
show up with, your burger and fries. I get
Right.
that. But if we want to have some degree of digital sovereignty in this new paradigm of Web3 in the
Okay.
future of finance, we really need to start taking some steps, for ourselves to, create communities, whether, like I said, it's a group of professionals or, like-minded people,
Right.
so that we can engage in mutual aid because, the banks haven't necessarily been overly welcoming to those sort of ideas, right?
Yeah. Well,
So, yeah, I say that to say, finance is really looking. I don't know if do you know who Larry Fink is?
I have heard of him. Yes.
So
Yeah.
he's the CEO of BlackRock, which is the
Oh,
largest
yes.
asset
Yes. I know who
manager.
that is. Okay. Okay. Think. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
BlackRock has more assets under management
I
than
was
a
gonna
lot
say
of
they're
nation
huge. I
states.
think they own everything, right?
Yeah, basically people say that they own everything. And
Right.
then so what he said about blockchain and tokenization is he wants to tokenize everything.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
not only does he already own everything, now he wants to tokenize everything.
Wow.
And you got to actually really look at what does he mean by that.
Yeah.
He wants to tokenize your home. He
Mm.
wants to tokenize your car loan, right? And all the so now what's going to happen is you used to have one person who owned your car loan. Now you
Hmm.
might have 10.
Wow. Yeah.
So, but then at the same time, too, you as a property owner, you could say, okay, fine. I own my home outright. I'm
Hmm.
going to tokenize my home and I'm going to sell it to 10 different people.
Mm.
Now it's a vacation home and they each have these 10 shares. It's
Right.
all tokenized, it's on the blockchain, they own it.
Hmm.
And, you as a property owner, those are those sort of benefits. So
Hmm.
once again, it's good to be on the proper side of
Yes.
this new Web3 paradigm we're shifting into.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. Well, what about the vulnerabilities of blockchains? What are the biggest vulnerabilities for blockchain? And someone like you as a fraud examiner, how can fraud still happen in this system? With
Yeah, I think, I spoke earlier, you want to have strong network security. You want to make sure
Mhm.
that you're not using public Wi-Fi,
Yes.
I know it's tempting and it's easy,
Oh
but
yeah.
to go to the library, to go to Starbucks, to go to the
Hmm.
airport or your hotel, and hey, they got free Wi-Fi, so why
Yeah.
don't I just hook up and connect into it? You don't know who's actually viewing
Oh yeah.
who's on that Wi-Fi. A
Hmm.
lot of times too. Um, what happens is some hackers will put or create fake hotspots that
Yes.
people connect to, and they're able to view everything that everyone connects to it is doing.
Yeah.
So therein, you want to be careful. You want to not use open or public Wi-Fi networks. You want to make sure that your home network or office network
Hmm.
is, locked down with, at least WPA2.
Okay.
They're saying WPA3 is, ideal nowadays. But, beyond that, beyond the network security aspects of it, it's
Hmm.
also looking at you. You sometimes can
Right. As the
be the
holder.
weakest link,
Hmm.
right? And social engineering is real.
It is real.
And yeah, I mean, I think the best thing that I could say to that, and I've seen some very elaborate things over the years, and I've been able to help a lot of people too.
Hmm.
And like every once in a while, it's like, oh, I came close myself to getting, caught up into
Yeah.
something,
Oh yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
But really, it's the whole, is something too good to be true? One. Two is urgency, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Someone's, oh, we have to do this now. You got to give me this money now. Your son's in a lot of trouble. We
Oh yeah.
hurry,
Yeah.
give us
Hmm.
$70,000,
Right.
right? And it's like, okay, wait a minute. Let's stop. Yes, that sounds like an emergency situation, but let's stop and think,
Yeah.
hey, where is my son right now? What is he
Hmm.
doing? Hey, let me try and pick up the phone and call him. Hey, are
And
you
call them.
okay? And
Yeah.
you know, and then now with AI being able
Oh
to,
gosh. Yeah.
with deep fakes for
Hmm.
audio and video,
Oh yeah.
we're at a point now where a lot of people are going to get hurt with this.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest thing is, hey, somebody's calling you out of the blue. Um, you know, call a verified source just to double check,
Yeah.
right? Like if the bank is saying, "Oh, hey, there's a tax issue, and you just pay us the bank, and we'll make sure that this tax issue, goes away for you."
It's
Well,
resolved. Yeah. Yeah.
would your bank really do something like that?
Hmm.
And yes, sometimes that does happen. Some states will levy your bank accounts, but there's nothing wrong with you saying, okay, hey, let me call you back and let me call the bank just to verify something,
Right. Right.
So social engineering is probably the strongest, most compelling thing because nowadays we I'm not saying we don't, but I think back in the day there was always a fear of the guy who was in a van
Yeah.
driving around the neighborhood,
Oh
like
yeah.
seeing whose network was
Unmarked
open.
van. Yeah. Hmm.
Right. Now those hackers have moved on to really bigger targets. They're going after cities, hospitals,
Oh yeah.
banks, so they're going for bigger targets. Not to say once again, hey, but don't be low-hanging fruit either.
Right.
Make
Yeah.
sure you lock down your network. Make sure you watch out for those unsolicited texts that say, "Oh, hey, somebody other than your name. This is me. How you doing?"
Yeah. Out
Okay,
of the
no,
blue.
wrong
Yeah.
number. Okay, well, can we be friends anyway? Well,
Yeah.
why would somebody who's looking for somebody else find you and say, "Oh, hey, let's be
Right.
friends"? And then it's like, "Okay, hey, let me send you this picture." And oh, okay, it's a
Right.
picture of a AI generated person who looks absolutely stunning, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, you just gotta, and I mean, hey, you gotta stop and think sometimes.
Yeah.
And
And
like I
it's those
said,
little steps that are huge. Don't want to get too technical, but I know a lot of people know about VPNs and things like that on their computers and their phones, especially you mentioned travel, because not too long ago, although I'm in DC on a business trip, Las Vegas was, I mean, the whole DMV was hacked. Department of
mm,
Motor Vehicles was hacked.
yeah,
So you
yeah,
talked about this, the sophistication of hackers and so forth. And there's good
yeah,
hackers too. I'm on the good side, but
yeah. There
there's
are
good
good
hackers
hackers out
too.
there, and
You know, not everybody is a bad hacker, but yeah, just being careful and making sure that you are paying attention. So a lot of that can come from, like you're saying. Don't just answer every phone call or every text or every email and clicking the links in. I mean, it's just little things there. So thank you for sharing that part. How about how might blockchain fraud prevention uh or how might it change fraud prevention, I should say, and accountability for businesses and everyday people? How might blockchain
Yeah,
change?
I think from a business perspective, all of these transactions are being, you know, monitored on the
Mm-hmm.
blockchain, right? So if someone says, "Oh, hey, what happened to this payment that
Yes.
I made to you?" Well, here's the transaction ID. Check the blockchain. You don't have to
Yeah.
take my word for it. Check the blockchain. It's on the blockchain. Okay, hey, it actually
Mm-hmm.
did show up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or you check the blockchain. Okay, hey, something went wrong, right? So I think from that standpoint of having that verification, it's
Mm-hmm.
there. Um, and I think once again, I'm not going to say automatically, but it pretty much instantaneously able to verify that payments and transactions actually went through.
Mm-hmm.
So, it doesn't become as much of a question of, okay, well, hey, how did this happen? Now, also, if it was fraudulent, you're able to actually track down that specific transaction and it can be traced on the blockchain in
Mm-hmm.
terms of, well, where did those funds go, right? They went through so many other channels and ended up in somebody else's wallet that,
Right.
has other ill-gotten gains. So hopefully it helps to prevent crime. But like most criminals, they do try to stay one step ahead. So,
Yeah.
like in a lot of ways, it's like, well, it'd be really dumb to use a blockchain to actually, steal money in that regard. But it happens and people get caught. But then there are people who are a little crafty at the same time too. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, I think from that perspective, it does allow for at least a little bit of a way to do some of the detective work online rather than on the
Yeah.
ground when it comes to that. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah, I think it's good from that perspective.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, listen, I think we have heard a lot. I know a lot of us are going to have to go back through and listen to the podcast again, and that's okay. So just to sum it up, blockchain is go for it.
Blockchain is the technology that is going to it's a major component of this new version of the World Wide Web that
Yes.
we're going to be interacting with. Whether it is once again from a fraud prevention standpoint,
Mhm.
blockchain is going to be used. Whether it's payments, it's going to be used. Decentralized finance and getting those financial services and making them more accessible. Also, the metaverse, a lot of
Yes.
the metaverse is going to be predicated on blockchain as well. Cybersecurity and AI,
Mhm. Mhm.
there's convergence of those two areas with blockchain.
Okay.
So, I'm seeing technology that, is going to be a fundamental component of this new internet that we're going to be
Mhm.
operating in.
Mhm. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Kamal. I really appreciate you for joining us today. You guys, I will share all of his information below and how to get in contact with him and stay connected. Um, Not only for his podcast, but also LinkedIn. If you're there, get connected with both of us. We're both there. But listen, thank you everyone for joining us on the Seeds of Transformation podcast. Until next time, y'all take care and talk to you soon. Thank you again.
All right. Thank you.
A big thank you to Kamal Hubbard for breaking down blockchain so clearly. From security and cryptography to the limits of technology and the tokenization of everything. Yeah, I still can't get over that one. Listen, we've seen how these shifts are reshaping our world. I pray today's discussion planted seeds of clarity and understanding for you. Remember, transformation doesn't start with trends or even just information. It begins with truth, and it grows when we apply that truth in our daily lives. Listen, if this episode encouraged or challenged you, make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And stay tuned for more here on the Seeds of Transformation podcast with Dr. Allma Johnson. Until next time, y'all, keep growing, keep learning, keep planting seeds that lead to lasting change, and keep growing in all things of God.